Hey, I'm going to show you a quick overview of all the new features we've added in 9.7.7.70. It's fantastic. We've been working hard and hopefully everybody enjoys it. We've taken a lot of feedback from people and incorporated it into this release. So I'm just going to run over some high level things and there's a README file that you can drill down on further. So let's start off with the network discovery. That's probably the biggest piece that we've added in this version. It's fantastic. So let's go in. I'm just going to click on network discovery here. Okay. The first thing we need to do is set up what we call a scan. So let's just open this scan and we'll take a look at it. So we define when it's active, the frequency, how often we want to scan. So what this is going to do is actually go out and scan your network for you and pull in all those configuration management and see configuration items into IncidentMonitor. And there's several ways. I'm not going to be able to get into all the detail. So for all the detail, it's actually available in our support portal. There's all kinds of online videos and discrete details on what all of these different steps that I'm highlighting here actually mean. So we go in here, we set up our frequency, our schedule, the network that we actually want to scan, so we're actually defined. So if you have multiple subnets, you can actually handle that. You could have multiple jobs or just go into the expert area and define multiple subnets. And here you're actually specifying your seed or mask. So basically that's your IP address range for that particular subnet. Okay, and then our classes. So basically when the scan's going on, if it finds a device that it doesn't know how to map that device, then we're actually going to, this is what we're going to use as the default. And this is all, you can change all of this stuff out of the box. This is the way it works. Anyways, so, and then down in here, we can specify what items we want to pull in, what do we want to do with it, various settings in here. Again, just go to the site and you can get more details on them. And then what roles have access to it, any credentials if we're actually, we have to go to external areas as well, or external components, and recipients when we're actually saying when things are done, we're going to email out, we can email out individuals that things have been completed. Okay, so that's our network scan. So we set up a schedule scan. And then down in here, so we can either wait for it to scan or we could actually run scan immediately. If we run scan immediately, it's going to drop that scan into the queue so we know it's actually pending. Now I could actually go to the agent and actually kick it off directly. I'm just going to leave that pending for now. I can go into the history, take a look at the history of the scan as well. Let me just drill this up for a second. So the one key thing in here is that we can actually go in and look at all the devices that were scanned or found on that particular scan. Okay, so let me close this down. Now, one piece that you do need to do is that when the scan runs, devices are going to come in. They generate what we call a device fingerprint. So this device fingerprint down here, it might recognize it, it may not. If it recognizes it, it'll have a green play button here, meaning that, yeah, we're good to go. We have this device. We know what type of device and how to map it. There might be some in here that you can't map, and you'll see these, right? I've gone through on my system and actually mapped them all so that next time the scan runs, it's actually going to pick everything up and bring them in directly. But what you're going to see is a whole lot of, here's the fingerprint. So this is the full fingerprint of how it identifies that particular device and vendor. Okay, so what we do in that case, we can come down here, we select this fingerprint, and we can actually go down and say view device info. So right down in here, we can go view device info. This is going to give us all the detailed information that it extracted, okay, and is uploading into IncidentMonitor. Here we'll see that we actually have the vendor, Luxol, and we have the IP address. So from this information, and then you'll see various information in here as well, that it's a OS class as a WAP, or it could be a router, and so on. So basically, you get all the information in here to determine what type of device it is. And then you basically come in, once you've taken a look at that fingerprint, you come in here and you can map it, and from then on, it'll actually take that fingerprint, will always identify a device of that type. Okay, so that's basically what when you scan, you're going to have to go in and Anything that's not recognized, update the fingerprints. Great thing about this is that once you've got fingerprints, you can export the fingerprints, send them to us, and we're going to build a library of all these fingerprints so that as all of our clients actually build up their fingerprints, we can send them out to everybody, and you can import those fingerprints so that we actually don't have to. You don't have to keep redoing this for every new installation. So we can share our information around. So that's basically what ends up happening here. And then if we come over here in the assets, so one key piece of this is when we come into the hierarchy, we can go in here and actually, if we go to connection rules, we can define how these things actually map. So when it finds a firewall, so let's go here. When we find a firewall in the discovery scan, I can come over here and basically say, okay, so only switches can connect to firewalls. So it'll know that when it's running through the discovery and it finds a switch, it'll connect the switch to firewalls. Okay, very similar to here when we have a WAP. When we find a laptop computer or a phone, then these two devices will connect to WAPs. So it's actually building up your whole network diagram by you building up your connection rules. That network diagram will be automatically generated for you as everything comes in based on your environment and how those connection properties apply. So it's pretty cool. Okay. Now, if I go here, this is the one that I had created. So if you remember this scheduled scan, it's called local network. And what ends up happening is that ends up becoming an endpoint for that particular hierarchy so that we can easily identify it and we know the definition of it. So this came in, there's the router, there's that, and then everything underneath. Okay, so that was the switch, the router, and then all my connection properties, it was pretty linear at that time when I ran it. Okay, so essentially that's your network scan. And then if we come over here, what ends up happening is when we run that scan immediately, okay, so that's actually going to go and populate our asset import queue. So you'll see here, this asset import queue is full of assets, and we can see all of them in here, okay? So basically now, if I go what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go turn on the asset importer, and that'll actually start processing that whole queue. Now it's gonna take a while just because the threads on this asset importer have been dialed back. But we'll see right away. It'll start running. It may take a minute or so, but and the discovery agent over here, if we actually wanted to kick off that new discovery, we would just say scan immediately. Now this is all scheduled behind the scenes as part of the configuration. The only thing you really need to do is put in your scheduled scans and run it. If you want to actually kick off one immediately, then you would basically run immediate, and then you could come down here, come to your network discovery agent, which is basically found in our installation under IncidentMonitor server components, network discovery agent. You could actually just run this interactively and run the scan right now. So if I did scan network, then in the queue over here, that'll actually be marked as running. Okay, so now we're running, and this guy should be processing. So if we go down here, and you will see this message from time to time. That's just a warning message. You don't have to worry about it. It's basically just saying that it's not processing them because there's so many that it's exhausted its thread pool. So it's just a message for us and you, so you can actually size your system a little bit better and maybe tweak those settings so you can process more assets. So you can see how it's just continually processing assets all the way through. Okay. And then once this is done, once all of these are done, it will actually go through and automatically build up the hierarchy in the map for us. Okay, so what that looks like, if I come over here, let's just go over to the assets section. I'll go to the firewall because that was the one asset we were looking at. Okay, so here's the firewall that we actually saw in our discovery. So let's go take a look at it for a second. So pulls it up, some pretty basic details. Well, not basic details, but all the details we need for this particular asset. Down in here is the asset topology. So let's just expand this out, and we'll go through real quickly how these connection properties can actually manipulate the resulting diagram. So let's give it a second. It's the first time it's drawn the diagram out, so it'll come up. So we can see here we have these assets over here that aren't grouped because they have no connection rules associated with it. So basically they're just connected directly to the scan. And then you can see where the scan, the local network scan, recall that that's what I created, connects to the firewall, and the firewall can support the switch, and then all these other devices support the switch. So over here, this is what we call in this network is a wireless controller. And it's actually a device that controls these two access points over here, these green ones. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a rule saying that a wireless controller can connect to the switch, and then those two access points connect to the wireless controller. And then you'll actually see how that putting in those properties will manipulate the diagram, and that will hold true forever as long as we do the scans. So let's go back over here. On the connection properties, I'm going to come up here, up to the top, and I'm going to do connection rules. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is, we can see here's the WAP is down here, and we can see all the devices that are allowed to connect to the WAP. Remember, we needed the wireless controller. So we need to come down here, and we're going to say, okay, I want rules for the wireless controller. And I'm going to say WAPs are allowed to connect to that wireless controller. Okay? And then we need to say over here on the switch side of things, we need to be able to say that wireless controllers can connect to the switch, and we take off the WAP because the WAP is only going to connect to the wireless controller. Okay? And now, if we take a look at this, we should see, let's just save the rules. I can do my recalc on the diagram. Okay, we should see that wireless controller now is put into here, and we have my two access points, and then I have so everything's looking good, right? And then that's all connected to the main switch up there. So now, if I go back over to my hierarchy diagram, over here, let's see if I just do a click to enlarge, this will regen it again. Okay, and we'll see down here, there's our firewall, here's our access point with our two access points and the desktop computer, laptop computer. So let's go back over here, and we'll go back in, and we're going to say, okay, now this surface here is actually a laptop, and that will end up connecting to the access point. Okay, and then let's say we have all of these devices out here, that they're all in the system. They're what we call touch screens, and these touch screens actually connect to a controller, and this very controller right here. So I'm going to go and change this device to be a home controller. Okay. And then I'm going to set up my connection rules. So now I'm going to go find my home controller. home controllers here can connect to touch screens. Well, touch screens will connect to home controllers, right? And then up here on the switch, I need to add in my home controllers can connect to the switch. Okay, and then I'm going to save my rules, and then I'm going to recalculate, and then all of a sudden we should see home controller with all those touch screens underneath. So it's that easy. Now let's go back over to our diagram again. I'm just going to reload this guy up. Give it a couple of seconds so I can regenerate the whole image again. And we're going to see that it's actually starts to group those things out. And again, those connection properties will persist across multiple scans. Right, so if we go find here's our control 4 controller here, and then we have our access point. This down here, there's our access point with our 2 access points and our laptop computer. So you can see where when we get the phones in and everything else, they'll automatically start connecting to the access points directly as we build up all those connection rules. All right, so that's basically Network Discovery Agent. Like I said before, you want to see more details, gory details. There's tons and tons of videos on our support site in the support portal. So just log in and start searching through the videos for it. Okay, so next thing is I want to go over a few changes that we've made in the interface here, and we can see it right away where we've got just a tabbed interface. So now it's real easy. We load it up once and we have it accessible throughout our entire session. Okay, so that's one of the big things here. We can refresh the whole screen just by clicking the refresh, close that tab down, and so on. So usability is fantastic in this case. So now let's talk about HTML editing. So we've actually added in HTML inline editing. So you can see here, here's one that I put together. Basically embedded image, bullet points, and bolding and such. This actually plays right into the actions. So when we send out email messages, okay, we are actually going to send out, we'll preserve that text and insert it directly into the template that you've defined. Okay, so you can see here, there's the email that they would have received exactly as what you typed in. So it's pretty slick. So now we're actually driving you more and more to make sure that all of our communication is done through the service desk, and we can actually provide like uber professional information back to the end user. So again, so I'll show you the inline HTML editing. Let's just go here. I'm going to open this up. So do an add task. And basically we just get the little editor right here. So I can just say, and let me just italicize that. And then the biggest thing is I can just now, if I flip over to, let's say, Snagit down here, and I'm gonna grab, oh, not that one, right here, and I'm gonna grab an image from Snagit. I can just paste it straight in, Control V it, and a little bit big. So I'm just going to take this and I can shrink it down to better fit the screen. There we go. I can format it and do whatever I need to do. all of our assignment properties, everything else, you know, if you're going to do CC lists and everything, that still applies. That has not changed. We've just basically added all this inline HTML editing into the system. And again, that propagates all the way through everything. Okay. So there we go. So we got that. So now let's go take a look at communities for a second. We've refreshed the communities, just brightened them up, made them look a lot cleaner, a lot easier to use. Quick filters, you can look at just your specific threads, anything that you've subscribed to. So if you have a forum or community entries that you actually subscribe to, meaning that you're really not an active participant on it, but you want to be notified of anything that gets changed on it, you can subscribe to them and we'll send out the notifications. If I'm a moderator, this is my moderator view. So if there are any forums or entries that I needed to moderate, maybe help out with a solution, I can do that as well. Let's go over to the end user side of things. So we can actually we'll click on communities down here. They see a very similar interface. This is everything that's active right now. So they can actually just filter on their threads and see what's going on. Okay. If I go back over to overview, I can go see anything with an answer. It tells me it's got one answer here. So I can go click on that, see the answer. It'll be nicely highlighted in green so we know exactly what the answer is. So just a lot cleaner, gives you a great way for them to actually participate and communicate with their peers. All right, adding a thread is pretty straightforward, just a new thread. Add in the information, away you go. Again, rich text editing, they can do everything they need to do there. And then if you're going to update a thread, you just come down here, you can just hit reply, and you're into replying. All right. Okay, so that's communities. It's kind of an underutilized thing. I don't think people really know the power that's there as far as engaging your end user community into the whole service desk and getting them to help facilitate their own solutions as well. So let's go to the metrics dashboard. A few additions to the metrics dashboard over here. Now we can actually just remove metrics directly, and we got our change layout and the tear away, so we can actually tear this away. It'll remember it, and then next time you load up, it'll actually load up the this dashboard in a separate window, torn away. Okay. Now let's go for our forums. Basically, we've changed the forums. And you get this straight out of the box. You don't have to do anything. And it's actually adheres to, they will adhere to the Google standard for their material interface. So basically, if we go look over here, I'm just going to pull up a request. Let's just do this asset request, for instance. We can see it's all into the new way of the new web motif, the material, what Google calls the material motif, and the Kanban board. So this is something I don't think too many people are too aware of. We have two different styles in here. So we have a Kanban board for providing for all the different projects that you are a member of and any specific processes. So it actually gives you all your milestones as defined for that particular process. So now you can actually just start dragging. So it's a great way if you want to be kind of DevOpsy and agile. You can start managing that and right away see what your throughput is, kind of get an idea of the velocity of everything that's going through and where you're impacted in your different areas. Okay, so that's kind of from a project perspective. Now let's go look at it from a resource perspective. I think this is really cool. So if we come in here, I'm going to come in and load up the Team Explorer, okay? And I'm going to go down to one of my teams. Let's just go to level 1 service desk. So I click on level 1 service desk, okay? Here I've got all the resources, so I can easily assign things back and forth to different resources. So as a team, as a team lead, this is fantastic. This makes it so easy to actually manage those requests and see again see what the workload is on each individual. We can see in this case, Mary Lyles is pretty much overworked. So we should start spreading the load a bit and maybe get a few more people on our team. And so that's an overview of everything that we've added in this release. We have enhanced our chat as well. So let's just go take a look at the chat as an end user. So I'm just going to come in, go select the chat. So part of this is you publish out those options that you wish to receive chats on. Okay. So again, it's kind of more of your service offerings to the end user. Now, you could just have a generic one too, but what this allows us to do is when they click on email services, well, at the back end, we have that categorized correctly, so we can skills-based route that to individuals who are specifically trained on email. So and just hit click here. So now we got they have the number. It's actually created a chat session, okay, or it's created basically behind the scenes, it's created a request, chat started, okay. Now if I flip over to the resource side of things over here, if I come to active chats, there's my active chat. So it's basically popped that up for me and pulled it in. So I can now okay. And then they'll get notified over here. So the idea here is that over in here, we can actually, we can add resources. So if we need to triage with other resources, or if we need to transfer it and assign it to somebody else, we can do that as well. Okay, and completing the request, we can do that. We can ship file attachments over. You know, we can put URLs and links in here and push URLs to them and the whole bit. So it's basically it's almost like a request, but you're actually communicating with them real time. So anyways, if we do a leave here, we'll actually get the notification on the other end that the end user's left. We could actually restart the chat and do all kinds of things. They could actually restart the chat as well. Let's say the request was left hanging. They could actually go into my requests, open up the request, and actually reinitiate the chat with them. So reinitiate the chat on it. So that's about it. If you need more information, just contact sales at monitor24-7.com. We'd love to, do a personal demo with you if you want. There's many more things in here that we just can't cover in a video. Trying to keep the video short, less than 30 minutes. But anyways, have a great day.